up in the sky, the birds, the planes.
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. And you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I'm your host, Tyler. And right now, we're just going to talk about stuff that came out of San Diego Comic-Con. And unfortunately, James, my co-host, is very ill and unable to be here. The second half of this episode will be a previous recorded that him and I did for the House of Brainiac. So what we're going to talk about is kind of just some things, hit the high notes from San Diego this past weekend. So Matt Reeves said that he's searching to make another spinoff of the Batman. Okay, interesting, because the Penguin's succeeding, but yet we lost the Arkham series, we lost the Gotham Central. Those weren't picked up as spinoffs from the Batman. So my question is then, what exactly would you do? Because I feel like Arkham was a really good fertile ground. So I feel like the Gotham Police Department, which could have been really good, became an Arkham show, which became nothing. So, and the Batman universe of movies and television will be known as the Batman Epic Crime Saga. Okay. All right. Sure. Sounds wonderful. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't roll for me. It sounds weird. It sounds like you're trying too hard. I feel like you're taking way too long to get the Batman going. I mean, 3 years kind of is the sweet spot. 4 years, I feel like you're starting to almost forget, and there's a lot of things moving right now. But it's just kind of crazy to think that when, the Batman was in, 2023? So 2026, right? Right? The Batman was in 2023. See, now I don't even remember. This is how much it gets to me. Anyways, no, it was in 2022. See, that's how much it gets me. That's what I'm saying. 4 years, yeah. It doesn't feel like it's been that long since the Batman, but yeah, it has been. It was in 2022. So here we are 2 years later when we technically should be getting the sequel. And when we think about how long this movie's been in production, it's crazy. But anyways, the Penguin will take place 1 week after the Batman. And that was part of what took Matt Reeves so long was he stated that a lot of his ideas were originally folded into the Penguin. The sequel to the Batman was going to be part of what became the Penguin by his rise. And the Penguin will now premiere September 19th on HBO. And more details will come about the whole HBO and Max thing, like we talked about before. All right. So from that neck of the woods. And it'll be the bridge between the Penguin will be the bridge between the two Batman films. We got a new trailer for the Penguin, which was really cool. It showed more of Sophia, and there is the only line that really popped for me in that trailer, and I told Jania this, was they mentioned the Hangman Killer, and the Hangman Killer came from Dark Victory, which was the sequel to The Long Halloween. And that's where, if you go and read that with Sophia and then look at the actress that's Sophia, you're kind of like, hey. So, moving on. We did get our first look trailer of Creature Commandos. And it looks pretty cool. But what was shocking to me is the rating is a TVMA. So this makes me feel like it's going to be more in line with what we get with Invincible. And just, is that really how we want to kick off the DC universe? Like I keep saying, the big kickoff is Superman. Great. But if this comes out in December and this is DC Studios, then you're introducing everything with a TVMA. So, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. Speaking of TVMA, Harley Quinn Season 5 is coming in November. So there we go with that. Woohoo, Harley Quinn, Season 5, November. Like I said, I feel like they're just pushing things to get things done before next year. Now, this is a very interesting piece of information. As we all know that Peacemaker Season 2 is filming, but Joel Kinnaman will return for Peacemaker Season 2. So I'm still waiting to see how Season 2 of Peacemaker fits in with, now it's in the DC universe compared to the DCEU. We'll see. But I'm just thinking flashbacks for Mr. Kinnaman, probably. But it'll be neat to see. I always liked him as Rick Flag, and it'll be interesting. All right, continuing on. Comic wise, we got to look at Justice League Unlimited #1. Something part of the All In Initiative. We talked about that last time, so that is pretty exciting. Comic wise, I know we're talking about Comic-Con, but I did find out that Lady Peacemaker, as I called her, is Peace Wrecker. I went through the comics and her name was at the bottom of the panel. So Peace Wrecker. I hope she shows up in Season 2. All right. We also got our first look at what the DC Studios logo will be. And it's very much the old DC blue stars logo that on a lot of comics that was there for like decades. Then it just says Studios. And then we saw the animated little thing with Superman breaking from the chains in a very Joe Shuster style and says DC Studios. My question is, though, if we got that logo, we got the trailer for the Penguin, and then we just got the trailer for the Joker Folie à Deux, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But why didn't we get our reveal logo for Elseworlds? Is that still a thing? Because the Batman and the Joker were pretty much what we would, consider in the Elseworlds family, in the Elseworlds brand. So if that's not a thing, I figured we would have saw that logo, but just throwing that out there, people. Just throwing that out there. Who knows? All right. Nothing really jumped out from McFarlane Toys. The only thing was they're doing a Batmobile with Alfred for Batman Forever. And that's awesome because I wouldn't mind having an Alfred figure. Because Michael Goff is awesome. And having a proper Alfred figure would be very nice. Now, the Joker trailer did premiere a little bit before Comic-Con. And it looks good. I mean, I'm not going to break it down because there'll be other people doing that. But I'm just going to say, it's fascinating. I think it's going to be great performances, and over on my other podcast, Requel, I recorded something that won't be out till closer to the film. But I mean, you guys know my feelings on the Joker film, and we'll talk more about that as it comes closer to time. But it looks good. That's all I'm going to say. But all right. Other news. Moving on. I know it's a lot easier. And it's just me rattling stuff off. I had all the visuals prepared and everything, but nobody's here to chat with. This is something that kind of makes me frustrated when they tell us stuff. But the Superwoman that's going to be in the upcoming new arc of comics is going to be revealed to be Lois Lane, and I'm just kind of like, why couldn't you make it a mystery? Or of course it is, So, Lois Lane. Yay. Now, for some of the bigger stuff, we got My Adventures with Superman panel. And in that panel, we got the first image look at Superboy, who is coming to My Adventures Season 3. Solomon got excited because it'll be the first property, like we talked about, that will feature both Superboy and Kara. And it feels like this is going to be more of the Connor Superboy. Wouldn't mind an amalgam of some sort, but they've been very good at remixing on this show, so we will see. And then they said the villains for the next season will include, are you ready? A bald Lex Luthor, and we kind of got to look at it, which we said, and then of course what I predicted, because they set it up, Cyborg Superman, which they set up in the series. So there we go for my adventures. Now, before we get into the last big thing here, I did run a poll on our site asking, do we want to see Cyborg Superman in the final season of Superman and Lois? 118 votes, 71% said yes, 29 said no. I kind of fall towards the no, and we'll see what happens. Now, Solomon and I were talking about, like, with Superboy and Steel and all that being in My Adventures, and we were saying, oh man, it'd be so cool, what don't you want to see? I said Doomsday. I don't want to see Doomsday or any kind of death of Superman in My Adventures with Superman. With that being said, though, me and Solomon, we're talking because we are preparing for a review soon of Superman Doomed. Based on how they have done the kryptonite, where it affects the Kryptonians and it pops up like spikes and everything, doing Superman Doomed as a way of doing Doomsday on My Adventures could be the better way to go. And I would be okay with that. If they did more of the Doomed kind of storyline where you could do Superboy, Superman, or Kara, I would prefer not Superman in the sense because he did just turn into Brainiac, but maybe something with Superboy in the Doom storyline, since the show likes to kind of remix things, could be a really cool way of presenting that and doing a Doomsday styled storyline. All right, the last big chunk for our DCers. We got a trailer that came out before of Superman and Lois, and it says, Superman is dead. We see the family like crying and everything. We see this Kate floating in space, and then we see the amazing actor Michael. I'm gonna try to pronounce his last name correctly. Cutlets. Talk about Superman is dead. Let's just enjoy it. That was part of our scene, but we also saw where Superboy John is taking over, and he confronts Lex, and Lex says, if you're going to confront me, kill me. And we see a line about Steel having to pick up the slack, or who's to protect the world. And we see Sam Lane get kicked into looks like an open, shallow grave. I don't know if Sam's going to make it out of here. I got chills just talking about it. But anyways, I sent on X, I sent a thing to Michael Cutlets, and I said, very excited to see what you bring to the character. You have a scary, strong Lex. It's refreshing. And he said, thank you. It's kind of nice. That's the second Lex I've interacted with on X, Twitter X. But so far, his portrayal of Lex hasn't been my favorite as far as a Lex character. But I'm liking what he's doing, if that makes any sense. But then we got the Hall H panel and everything. They talked about, they're doing the Death of Superman storyline through their own filters, which for the show I'm okay with because, like I talked about, it's one of those storylines you get so tired of it because no one does it quite right. But this show has the ability to do it correctly. But they released a almost 3-minute scene where it's just Superman fighting Doomsday in space. Now, my prediction is that this will be like the opening scene of the new season. And at the end of it, you see Superman laying there and he floats up and he starts just blasting Doomsday with intense heat vision. And I think he's going to go solar flare. Is kind of my thought, and that'll incinerate Doomsday completely. And maybe that's how he doesn't die, or they think he's dead, but he's just floating in space. We'll see. I watched it on my phone, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to have to take the day off work afterwards to recover. My wife's like, what? And then we watched it on the TV as a family. But we did hear that there will be a new suit in the final season. My prediction is the suit will have the cape with the S on the back. I hope it's the traditional gold. That way I can cement in my head that Krypton is the prequel to this TV series. And I bet they will have the trunks. Just watch. Just because of everything that's happened. Watch them put like trunks and do a very much more classic traditional Superman suit. When Superman comes back. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't really want to see another black suit. Between that, Tyler's already had one black suit, and then we had the Henry Cavill black suit. It's a very specific regeneration type suit. I think it'd be, I don't know. I don't really want to see it, but if they do something different and cool, it would be neat, I guess, at the same time. I'm not going to be mad either way. But it was definitely worth checking out online. And then the last part of that is we got a really neat final season poster, a Comic-Con exclusive poster of the Superman and Lois final season artwork, which is just beautiful. So, yeah, that's all the really news I've been able to get. I probably missed a few things, but, there's a lot of stuff that comes out, gets buried, comics going on. It can get, overloading, but that's really the rundown that I wanted to bring to everybody. And I hope everybody has a good one. Let me know, and stick around to hear me and James. I hope he feels better. Bye. Tyler here. Hope you're enjoying the podcast today. I just want to talk about another project I've really been working on. It's the Requel. It used to be just part of our Patreon, and we still do Patreon exclusives, but I've really pumped it up, and I've started inviting friends to join me as we pitch movie ideas. I ask everyone if they can go and check it out. It's under Jonathan Tyler Patrick on my YouTube, and go like it, subscribe, and if you want to come on and pitch an idea, come on. Just check it out. It's a fun time.
I am Brian Peters, the creator and host of Gravely Amusing. For the past 30 years, I've studied the history of gods and monsters in pop culture and our world. As a student of theology and history, I've tried to understand evil and its impact on us. As a writer, I've tried to share this knowledge. As a comedian, I've tried to make people laugh as I do it. But as a man-child, I'm still that scared 7-year-old boy. Join me as I share the history of horror and sci-fi, discuss classic and modern pop culture, and share a creepy story or two. This podcast may scare you, it may horrify you, or it may leave you gravely amused. Listen to Gravely Amusing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever podcasts are found. Follow us on Twitter at gravely_amusing or on TikTok at gravely amusing.
We have a $1 Patreon. Yes, I know everyone asks for money, but our $1 Patreon each month gets you commentary tracks for releasing movies, DC movies. It gets you my Requel series where I pitch ideas about movie sequels, prequels, or whatever. It also gets special bonus episodes. So check that out for $1 a month. That's all we ask. Keep it cheap, keep it simple, and help us keep going. Check out the link in the show notes or Patreon Krypton Report.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, and with me is my co-host, the Man in Red, the Superman of Red, Mr. James Cole, the Man of Steel himself. Welcome, James.
Hey, Tyler. How's it going?
So we are recording this episode, and if you're listening to it, there's no news attached to this at the moment because James's birthday is coming up. So let's all worship. Let's all worship James. Let's all
Worship
wish.
me?
Yes, let's all wish James a happy birthday. Happy birthday, James. Your gift is in the mail. It should be arriving soon.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see. And so I'm going on vacation with the family. So we're gonna record a couple of things ahead of time. So yeah, just kind of taking some time to celebrate James and vacation. So we, as you may know, decided a couple months ago with the way that comics have been and with the way that our access to comic shops and stuff, and with the app, we're going to take a break from doing current comic books, and we would come back to them in clusters. And since Superman the comic launched and brought forth House of Brainiac, a crossover between Superman and Action Comics, we decided we would wait till this completed and everything was available on the app to then talk about and review it. So as of this recording, it's a Tuesday. The last part of this event dropped on the app. So that would be Superman 15. And so now we're going to talk about House of Brainiac. And that's just, I feel like, is a much better way of doing stories with comics than doing it either by arc. So we're trying to catch up with like World's Finest and stuff like that, trying to catch up with arcs. And I think when we get to October with the All In, it might be a little bit easier to do those arc clusters instead of trying to do these individual issues where I don't really feel like we really get the story, because comics aren't wrote as much anymore to be one and dones. And yeah, so I'm rambling, but yeah, that's what I got.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I've been enjoying kind of the way we have been reviewing comics. You know, reading House of Brainiac as it has come out, and then you know, doing some New 52 reading, catching up on those trades, reading them one after another, talking about the story and you know that iteration of the character, um, and then it gives us time to put a whole arc together and gives us plenty of Superman to talk about.
And sorry, I'm trying to reboot my app here because Sailor was on my tablet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I'm caught up on the app. I'm caught up with World's Finest, and I've read all of the Prelude to Absolute Power issues. The first Ground Zero issue just dropped on the app. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's very close. I've read all the tie-ins to House of Brainiac. I mean, we're not really gonna touch on those. But I can mention like where the story turns a little bit or how it's attached. But we're gonna talk more about the core story.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, and the tie-in stories just came from Green Lantern and backup stories in Green Lantern and Power Girls book.
Yep. So the House of Brainiac, all the books, there are 13 books altogether. And I had a printout of everything. And it was Action Comics 1064, then tie-in Green Lantern 10, Superman 13, tie-in Power Girl 8, House of Brainiac Special 1, Action 1065, tie-in Green Lantern 11, Superman 14, Power Girl 9 tie-in, Green Lantern 12 tie-in, Action 1066, Superman 15, and then Power Girl 10 tie-in. So I will, like I said, I have my notes here as I was kind of just taking some light notes through the comics. And it's very recommend when you do notes, make sure whatever it is you're working on, you use it all, because I had where I hate wasting paper. And then where we were doing this, and then I had to do a couple other things and take notes. My notes got a little confusing between our recent Crisis review, House of Brainiac, and Moz.
Those are very different notes to get mixed up upon.
Well, it's like you'll turn the page and it'll be like House of Brainiac notes, and then you look over and it'll be like My Adventures Superman episode. Then you turn it and it'll say like halfway through it, like I'll have an underline like Crisis, to where I just was trying not to waste paper.
Gotcha.
So let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy, and crack open House of Brainiac #1, Superman 1064. My children are currently watching Teen Titans Go. if you can hear it, because they are almost done with their complete rewatch of the Teen Titans Go series. And this is an example of why I love Roku TVs. So I will now pull up the device and I will go to my app that is a Roku remote and I will turn the volume down of the television. There we go. And it's Beast Boy's birthday in the episode. So that means James is Beast Boy. So let's crack this open.
I mean, I'm not a vegetarian.
But we have. I thought this was interesting. Like where this starts, I think is kind of interesting. Lois's first day off in years. And it's Pete Rock's mixtapes. Lois only, no Clark's allowed, and like she's going to do yoga. And I have one big question for you before we start this. That I did not think about, because I read these as they came out on the app, and then went back and reread them. Okay, where's John?
I was actually wondering that myself, in particular. The last time I saw or read a thing for John was the backup stories of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, where it's like showing him and Damien's secret hidden history of helping raise Trinity.
Yeah, something like that. That's the last place I saw, but I don't know particularly where that takes place in the timeline. So
Nobody
at
does.
the current timeline,
Tom King doesn't even know. Tom King
I'm
doesn't
sure
even
he
know.
doesn't.
He's just like, yeah, this happened at some point in time between the making of the Omniverse, the Multiverse, the Monoverse, the Verse, the Hippoverse, So like I didn't think about that until I was reading this, and I was like, John doesn't have a solo book right now. His solo book was tied up, and I'm like, so if any listeners out there want to chime in and let us know, I don't remember where John was, because and I say that because this panel here sets up, we have, because Connor Kent, clone Superman and Lex Luthor, Otho Ray and Oso Ray, the Super Twins, Kong Keenan, Superman of China, Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, Lana Lang, Superwoman, Natasha Irons, Steel, John Henry Irons, Run Steelworks, recently engaged to Lana, also a Steel, Perry White, Ron Troop. We're kind of going through our players: John Corbin, Rudy Jones, Leslie Wilkes, Lex Luthor. And then we have Jimmy Olsen and Siobhan Smythe. So I'm like, okay. And then we get where Superman is. And we have a great thing of Superman flying and gives a kid a high five at the baseball game. And then Clark shows up for yoga like a dork. It's awesome.
Yeah.
This is so me, and that's
with a sweatband.
Yeah, that's so me and Jania meditating and everything. And then it ends where Clark tells her to get to safety. But it shows up all of our players, and then I was thinking, okay, but then as I was reading, I was like, where is John? And I'm just gonna throw that out there on Twitter later. But
because we go through the whole book, and
he
John
never shows
up.
So I'm gonna but then we get where Clark tells her to go to safety. James, if you want to take over and explain what's going on, who's showing up?
Well, dropping onto the city is a bunch of Zarnians and a bunch of Brainiac drones coming down on the city in the super family. Everybody comes out and they are fighting the Zarnians and destroying the drones. And there is a lot of destruction in the city. Lois and Perry helping people to safety. Superman freezing them. Steel and Natasha both out there. Supergirl shows up, blasting her heat vision. And Brainiac looking from his ship.
So Brainiac's looking for his ship, and we see uh, Supercore workers going to, fight. We have Mercy with her arm gun and Lena. And then we have Brainiac basically this starts taking people. And he says interface too. And we see him take Lena and Mercy. And it's like a weird ray that also bottles them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, the weird twist here is the entire time that Superman has been at Supercorp, there has been this LL01 hologram. Like, and it just seemed like Lex Luthor's ego being a Jor-El type hologram at Supercorp and revealing that it's been Brainiac inside Supercorp the whole time.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. And I'm going to say this before we get too deep into this. I kind of wish that this was a little bit maybe longer of an event, and it was like a two-folder where it started with like a Zarnian war attack, and it was the idea that Brainiac released the Zarnians, like a mystery where like all of a sudden all these Zarnians are showing up, and then they deal with the Zarnians, and then we see that was like the first wave that Brainiac had sent out, and then we find out it was Brainiac who had a city, and then Brainiac showed up with like what we have here. I don't know. I just think it would have been interesting because like the idea of there being a Zarnian city that Brainiac had is kind of like a wow. Why hadn't no one thought of that before?
Right. Which is what makes the team up like so crazy right now. Brainiac unleashing them as an army of Zarnians and an army of his drones on Earth just to capture all of these meta-powered individuals.
Luthor releases the Watch Maximum Armor, which is like a hard light armor that lasts for like 10 seconds. And we see it the whole time counting down as Luthor takes one of the Zarnians out the window. And, we see it counting down and it goes to 1 second as he hits the ground. And of course, Supergirl, Kong, Keenan, the twins, Connor are all taken by Lois, or by Brainiac. Lois is not. Even Livewire is taken. And Shaban. Now, James Gunn, if you're listening, it would be awesome is if we get some sort of line in the film where Jimmy mentions his new girlfriend, Shaban. Or
Yeah.
Have you guys met my girlfriend, Shaban? Like
that would be pretty cool.
It would be. Just do it with dialogue. You don't have to throw in the character. Just do it with dialogue. Like, and then when they do the sequel, you could have her then. So then Brainiac takes Metallo, Lana Lang, aka Superwoman, and Rudy Jones. And Superman is left, which I think is interesting. He's left and he's fighting the Zarnians. And then Brainiac basically tells him to take Superman to the main general. And Luthor jumps in the way. And Luthor says to him, "You're the only person who can save us now. And he has my daughter." And Brainiac takes Luthor. We see that both Steels are left. Clark is angry with like the heat electric coming from his eyes. And he says, "Lobo." And then we turn the last page and we just see a bunch of different versions of Brainiac.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. Which I've been recently reading Batman on the app, and there was some scenes with multiple versions of Batman throughout the multiverse and stuff. So it's just a similar image, and I really like the comparison and all the different versions.
So, and having where we are on over an Electric Mullet, where we're rereading, um, all Superman since John Byrne's run through. We have representation of the more. Why am I drawing a blank? What's his name? Brainiac. Milton Fine.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, the character known as Milton Fine.
Yeah, I'm throwing it out on X right now about John. I'm gonna tag Joshua Williamson in it. Oh, I love how when I go to type House of Brainiac, it comes up. Do you mean House of Dragon? Nope.
No, not at all. And then we go to action, right?
Yep, we go to Action
No,
Comics.
we go to
No, Superman 13.
Yeah, it went
This
to
was
the
action.
wrong. No, it went to the wrong.
Yeah, did you do it like I did where you pulled up House of Brainiac, but yet it
Yeah.
doesn't, when you go through the individual issues, it doesn't link them by the House of Brainiac, it links them by
Well, I'm under the House of Brainiac story.
so,
it might. You know what? I think you have to go to the full storyline, and it'll work you that way. But you have to go down to the bottom to that. I think
Yeah.
that's how the app works here. I was just clicking on the issues up front, but I can do that.
Now we go to Superman.
Superman 13, House of Brainiac Part 2.
All right. House of Brainiac Part 2. So we're at Warriors Bar in Coast City. Take it away, James.
And the main man is wrecking crap. Because, why not? Superman shows up. We need to talk. They get into a big... Lobo tries to fight Superman, but at this point, everybody's been taken. He's not having it. He just, fries his face. Puts him right down to the ground. He's asking where Brainiac is. He has no idea that the Zarnian army's been let loose. Brainiac's got Livewire hooked up, Parasite hooked up to machines. You got all the super people shrunken in their bottles. Brainiac having some glitches, kind of, and throwing up on the floor, and says, "Take me to my cooling chamber." So something's going on with Brainiac.
And as we get through here, and we'll reveal more of kind of what this Brainiac represents. Do you like Brainiac being more like an organic that then slowly made his way into being a technological creature? Or do you like Brainiac? I feel like Brainiac's another one of those characters that has a very convoluted story. Like we have some versions like we saw in My Adventures where he's very much a machine, and then eventually he kind of tries to possess like a techno-organic body. And then we have some versions like we had where it's more of a organic body based from the beginning. So
right. I mean, I kind of like how I like Brainiac being like I like him being an organic being to begin with, but pretty much mostly machine by the time you meet him, the way he's been depicted from Kolu. It's I mean, I feel I appreciate the character being more interesting and complex that way. Sometimes the mystery of the machine is a very interesting way to tell it. He works really well, being able to be molded into those different iterations of the character.
All right, I just wonder because Because I'm kind of like, you know what, like the Kaluan, uh, uh, so I like it, but it works, because it works. So yeah, that plays a big factor in the story. So I thought we should just get that out of the way. But
Well, the interesting thing, even though he is biological, he's existed in the future and has traveled to the past and stuff. So like he has alien and future technology, some which sometimes he doesn't even fully understand himself.
hmm so we have Clark returns to Supercore with Lobo, and Supercore sets Clark up with basically his own like spacesuit and giant um, space skid cycle
Yeah,
device.
yeah, his own space chopper, like Lobo's space chopper.
And we see here in this, they talk about having to leave the United Planets area and the Green Lanterns, which makes me like want to go read the Green Lantern tie-ins um, to see what kind of story there is. But then we have the other Zarnians show up, uh, and Lobo says, "I'm looking for it." Uh, he says, "It's not every day you get to meet your idol, but you know what they say. You want to be the main man, you got to beat the main man." And then we see Brainiac coming out of his chamber, and he's talking with Luther. And he says, "If you agree to leave my daughter out of this, I can give you Superman." And they start saying process, and he takes the shrunken super woman. But if you remember, Supergirl has a skull that she ripped off one of Brainiac's drones. She's reprogramming it, and it blasts her and Connor out of the casing. And now they're free, but they're still shrunk. And I was thinking about as we were reading this, I have to laugh in a sense because this all these super family members all have these kind of matching outfits with like the jackets. This would be the perfect time to do an updated version of the Smallville jacket on Superman. But no, they put him more like the classic costume. Why like Supergirl, Keenan, everyone else has like these jacket-based costumes.
Right.
So the next book is the House of Brainiac special. What did you think about this book overall?
The special.
Yeah. I feel like it's cool stories and then like filler.
I mean, it was, they kind of make a big deal. I like how they show some like Brainiac being a little more classic, like almost a Silver Age look
Mm-hmm.
with the like pinkish cloak. But they make like a big deal about like the Zarnian um, ability to regenerate.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting theory, It's something that kind of just informs maybe why he would be interested in them. But other than that, that's about all it does. Then we got Perry for mayor.
But in the Zarnian one, we learned that this Zarnian scientist, Trib, like we saw that these Zarnians were becoming ruthless and brutality and all this. She basically summons Brainiac to put all the bad Zarnians under a city, and then leave. She's going to give them their DNA or whatever, and then leave the rest of Zarnia alone. And he basically turns against it, takes the city, but then decides to leave in a moment of weakness and not destroy the city like he usually does. But when he comes back later, everybody's already dead.
That's after Lobo had killed all of Zarnia.
Which is ridiculously crazy still. Anyways, it's still crazy. And then the next one is Chapter 2, Campaign Headquarters, and it's Bibbo. And I think this is a cool little story, but I don't feel it belongs here. It's all about the guy that Perry's running against, Garen Blake, and about oppressing, hating aliens, and how there's this little alien girl that gets caught up in it. And we're hearing like the story of Bibbo about being part of the town, and how Perry White stands up for everyone and for the truth. And the girl almost gets beat by this crowd, and Bibbo stands up for her because that's what Bibbo does. But one of the guys that was in the crowd actually turns and joins up on Team Perry, Team Bibbo, basically. It's a good little story, but I just don't feel like it should be in this.
Yeah. I mean, kind of, it's just more people in Superman's orbit getting a story, partly of their own. The inspiration Superman has given to Bibbo to be better in his life, as well as Perry, to stand up and run for mayor. Kind of just like why that's in here,
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't inform anything about the House of Brainiac story, though.
And then the next story is we get with Waller, and we see Peacemaker. Okay, I'm not up on the Waller story and everything. Who is this? What I refer to as my notes as Lady Peacemaker.
I don't know who Lady Peacemaker is.
Okay, I'm not all up on what's been going on, like with the Suicide Squad stuff. Maybe I'll read it over
I
vacation.
do not recall the Suicide Squad stuff. So the Suicide Squad that I've read recently was the prelude to Absolute Power, and that was written by Nicole Maines, and it's Dream Team. Pretty good book, actually, but anything that's come before that, too much. I'm not up on that Suicide Squad. I had a little hiatus there where I didn't get to read very much, but I've been making it a point to get more reading done.
That's part of my break time. I'm grueling myself this week with driving and excess work to try to get as much done so that I can take an extra day off for vacation. But what we find out here is that Waller has been talking to the Council of Brainiacs. And we see all these different Brainiacs, which is cool because we see the different ones for like throughout all of comic book history, basically. I kind of was looking, there's not one that really pops out to me as being like the representation of the Jeff Johns Brainiac, the Gary Frank Jeff Johns Brainiac.
Yeah, honestly, the closest to that one is almost your primary one.
Yeah. And then this one, we get the tease of something that they're building. Walker will never attain the knowledge of our true power. My creation will see to that. It says to be continued in Action Comics 1065. All right, 1065.
This is the first glance of kind of at what he's doing in this series.
Now this is neat because in this one we get like a story and a backup story. So it picks up. We have, the Brainiac skull ship flying, and it talks about the amount of raw power you need to kickstart the creation of years will be immeasurable, let alone the power you'll need to actually keep it running, Brainiac. I assume this is why you've collected your own doppelgangers so that you can. And it pauses. We see Lena locked up, and then it goes back to Lobo and Superman battling those Zarnians. And we have Connor and Kara who are trying to get everyone out. And then we meet. Do they ever give these a name? I called them Doom Dog or Doom Dogs. But do we ever get a name?
No, I did not see a name.
Yeah, I called them Doom Dogs. They're basically like Doomsday Dogs. Like, I just think that I like the DD sound, Doom Dogs, better than like Doom Hounds or, whatever. So,
no, that makes sense. A little bit of alliteration in their names.
I'm all about the alliterations, man. And then we have
Tiny Superboy and Tiny Supergirl running through the ship.
And they're able to free. I think it's interesting. Excuse me, long day. What I think is interesting is they're tiny, but yet when they get to Parasite and Livewire, they're full grown size, and they free them. And they're walking around, and you have Supergirl on Livewire's shoulder and Superboy on Parasite's shoulder. And they go and they find the gun, and they're able to enlarge them. Hold on, I'm working on something. So just so you know, for those listening, I am live texting our good friend Anthony Desiato, because I asked him the same question of where John Kent was.
Okay.
And we'll see what he says.
Oh, okay. I thought he had responded with an answer.
So we have the attack, and we'll see what he says.
Well, we got Superboy, Supergirl, Parasite, and Livewire going at Brainiac, different versions of Brainiac, fighting them, shooting them, blasting them, destroying them. And Brainiac kind of snags them up, kind of captures them all.
Okay, Anthony said there's a line quickly about him being on the mission with the Titans. So there we go.
What? That vaguely sounds familiar.
I must have missed that.
That makes sense though. Taylor's been writing Titans, and I've been meaning to get back to Titans because after Dark Crisis, the Justice League disbanded, and it's been the Titans as kind of like the primary team. And I wanted to actually go back and jump into Titans after Dark Crisis when they pick them up from there.
Yep. So there we go.
That makes sense.
But I've been reading Titans too, and John hasn't really popped up. So I don't know. We'll just wait and see. But
you know more than me. I haven't read any Titans in a while.
I've kept up with Titans, and I kept up with Nightwing because I really like Tom Taylor's writing.
Me too, which kind of sucks that I fell off of.
I've been trying to read
for a little while.
I've been trying to read when the new stuff drops on Tuesdays, like everything that I'm interested in. Some weeks it's easier than others, and sometimes I get behind. Like I took some time off from reading DC stuff to read the entire run of The Boys. And then like a few months ago, I read the entire run of Invincible. So, but Brainiac kidnaps Kara and she spits on him. And then we find out that he sends Kara into, or we have Luthor, Brainiac, Kara on a ship. They're going into Kalu. and it's his world that he has bottled. And Kara and Lex break free, and then we're back on the hardcore station with Lobo and Superman. They're with the Zarnians again.
Yeah, where the Zarnians track them down.
Only this time, Lobo teams up with them to take, and he says, I'm up to the challenge, you bastic. Then I guess we're got our own House of Lobo now. But you got to show us you mean business. Take out the Boy Scout. And then, so that's like the end of the issue. And then we get the backup in which takes place. It's called Brainiac and Son. And this is where we see that, Brainiac's son is in, Brainiac's family is in Kolu. And he has them. And I'll be honest, I did not really like the artwork in that one.
Oh no, everything's in so much shadow.
This isn't Batman, okay? And now we're on to Superman 14, which is the only cover of this whole series that doesn't have anything Brainiac on it. Well, I guess, nope, never mind. Yeah, every other cover has something Brainiac styled on it, except 14. It's Superman running to fight Lobo, which I thought was at first from that Superman vs. Lobo book they did a few years ago.
Right.
But no, because it looks just like it says the main match. And I feel like there's the underlining thing here that Lobo is no longer a last son of Zarnia because there's all these other Zarnians right now.
Yeah. It's actually funny the way they've got it, the main match, kind of like this wrestling thing, which is actually funny because that's how it ties into the backup story in the Green Lantern books, where Guy Gardner is tasked with taking in Lobo, and the Lobo he finds is somebody using the main man moniker on this wrestling across the multiverse show. And so he tries to take in Lobo, who's not even Lobo.
Did you ever read the New 52 Lobo, where it was like someone posing as Lobo, and then the real Lobo showed up later because no one liked the new look for Lobo?
Yeah,
I never read it.
I read the early bit of it, and then I saw like a couple of pages that were posted where it showed like where he killed, where the regular the real Lobo killed the fake.
Cool. So Lobo raps Solomon. I hear Solomon moving around. Jeez, if it's an S, I alliterate it. Solomon, Superman, same thing. Wraps him up in chains. And then we see where Brainiac has Lena, and she's shrunk. And we cut back to the bottle city of Supergirl and Lex being hunted down and they're saved by Vril, how would you say it? Vril Dox? Vril Dox.
Vril Dox, yes.
And his mother, Lysol. That's basically what I think of when I read it.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm. He says how he wants the death of his father. And then we go back to where Brainiac's basically taking apart Metallo. And I feel like this is so like, if you're not paying attention, it's like one line of dialogue with one small panel where he said, I should applaud Henshaw's design, Metallo. It is inspired, but your metal is needed elsewhere. And that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because you only see him in the prison in the first one. They talk about how they're taking people and beings and things like that. They might reference that they took Metallo, but I'm assuming since they referenced him specifically in jail that he was. But yeah, this is the only mention or time you see him otherwise.
So I'm like, I guess he's dead now. Like he's just gonna be gone. But then we have Lobo bringing Superman to Brainiac. Yeah. Continue, James.
Superman and Superboy and Supergirl are all attached and tied up like Livewire and Parasite were. Uh, um, Brainiac is using their power to raise his queen. And so it's Brainiac and his queen. And then he sicks his queen on the Zarnians.
I think it's interesting, like he's making a queen, because what we kind of see here is he keeps talking about he's missing something, and it's emotion and companion and love, companionship or whatever. And we know that there's a theme of like Virl Drax had a wife and a son, but now Brainiac is something else, and he creates a queen, which is interesting because it's his creation. Unlike how he created other kind of copies of himself, this is something new and different.
Right.
And then it gets even more crazy if you want to take it, James, and talk about what she does.
Oh, she runs through and kills all of the Zarnians.
Not just kills them, like kills them, destroys them, digests them.
Well, she rips them apart. She like chomps them. She slices through them.
So she needs their power, but it's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy the amount of power that is required to create the queen to share in Brainiac's knowledge. It's kind of the only way he has this idea of companionship is he needs somebody to be able to expand his knowledge and share it with, and kind of find that missing piece that's causing him to like glitch and mess up. And
so not only does she kill, but like she kills the Zarnians in a sense of like keeping them down so they don't regenerate. Like they're done. She's taking their power or whatever because she says more power. And I get a very what do you call it, alien vibe from the queen,
right.
Because like she shifts mode, however you'd say it. Like she changes how her body looks.
Yeah, it gets very animalistic, sharp claws, sharp teeth, very, and the glowing claws and stuff might be something to how she takes their power.
And we call this James before his coffee. So don't get for anyone who's podcasted with James before his coffee. So then the next is we're back to because the next issue is Action 1066, and we see all of them dead, and Superman's yelling, "You killed them, Brainiac!" And we get a really cool look at the Queen at the bottom, and her claws and stuff kind of remind me of Dr. Farm. Right? Was it Dr. Farm that had the kryptonite claws?
Yeah, I believe so.
Or was the other one?
Farm. No, I think Dr. Farm was in the wheelchair, and I think Graft was.
Where's Graft the wheelchair? I don't
remember. Can't remember which one was which.
Yeah. But then we see like the face and tongue as like in the bottom panel as we see what like the idea of what she's gonna do, but it's like very like venomous tongue. It's like I said, it reminds me of the xenomorph aliens in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
But then somehow Lobo has survived, and Brainiac says, "Lobo, my queen just effortlessly slaughtered your people. Do you really believe you have a chance?" He says, "I ain't no dummy. I know a thing or two about a thing or two. Doesn't take a genius to know exactly what I need to kick your ass into oblivion." And he says, and basically he frees Superman. So let's take down the House of Dweebs together.
Yep. Free Superman, Superboy, and Supergirl.
So the House of L versus the House of Brainiac.
Yep. Brainiac sicks the queen on him to kill them all.
Then he goes to get Lena, and then basically plugs Lena into like a wall of cords that come out and just shove into her. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the horrible scene that scarred us all as children in Superman 3.
Ah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That is a horror scene.
she's saying it hurts. It hurts. And he said, "It will, of course, kill you." And Connor, Brainiac's got Lena on it. Livewire's free. Everybody's kind of free. And Connor like talks about what his tactile telekinesis can do, what he learned from the Chained. He says, "You want more power, Brainiac? This looks like a job for." Turn the page like Metallica, Superboy. And he's just like, "You fool!" And we see the Queen kind of. She says, "Power fades, gone. How?" And he's like, "My queen." And she like falls down. He's like, "I need more power." And he's like, "What is wrong with me?" And then it becomes a brawl between Brainiac and Superman. And then uh, shows up his family with Lysol and Drox. It's Lysyl. Was that how you'd say it? Lysl, Lysol?
I think what did I say? Lysol? Kind of thought Lisa, but Lysol.
Okay. She says, "My dear husband, it has been so long. What have you done to yourself? Before you had all of this, we were your family once." And I love in modern comics, okay? I want to give a shout out to this with like the digital coloring and stuff. The fact that when Brainiac talks, we get black with red lettering to know that it's him. And then when like his son talks, it's like green with black lettering. And then Superman's the regular and the rest of white bubbles and stuff. I love that. Like I was reading the Darth Vader comic and everything Vader says is in black with white letters and stuff. It makes it cool.
Right.
But they go to save everyone and everything else and grab all the bottle cities and hurry up. And we have Luther come walking like, "I have an idea to stop Brainiac once and for all." And Kara kind of defends Luther and stops it. And we see the House of Brainiac fighting with everybody else. And then Luther puts on his own hacking into Brainiac's programming with his own kind of Brainiac helmet. And Superman says, "How can I help?" Says, "The moment I turn this on, Brainiac will know what I'm doing and will send his army to kill me. You will need to keep them away from us." And Superman says, "We can do that." And Brainiac says, "I know." Just like Han Solo. And and there's
That was Lex
Supergirl.
with this Brainiac helmet on, saying, "I know."
There's Supergirl standing there with Lobo and Superman, and they're fighting the army because what we see is now Lysol and Drax, all of them are now connected in like a hive mind, and they're all attacking Superman.
And you see, like all the Cluans are like being controlled by Brainiac. Like they're not even fighting of their own accord.
Yep. And then it says, then we get the backup, which is the art style for this was pretty cool, but we see like
Lena
says,
and Lex.
yeah, says and this is neat because we see Lena, but she's painted green. And it's like telling her story about uh everything Lena went through.
Yeah, how Lex had traded Lena to Brainiac for technology from the future. How she was used as Brainiac's avatar in the future, um, which like improved her body and her mind. Um,
I
and
think
then,
Superman
but
saved her at one point.
yeah, and she was returned to Lex as an infant again. Um, and he hid her away.
And this
Did
is like in
experiments
her
on her.
mind. It's in her mind, and it's Lex and Lena talking. Yes. And then he did experiments on her. Then he hid her on the island with his mother. And
Said that
how
every cell in her body is stronger than any supercomputer.
uh, he talked about how the night he was up with her, how he realized he was not the smartest man on the planet because I could not find another way to protect you. That I could never be what Superman said. I sent you away because I didn't deserve you. Um, then we have basically Brainiac coming into their mind too, and uh, Luther's trying to protect Lena. He goes back. He has that armor on again that we talked about, and then the last panel is you see that they're side by side, plugged in, and then he says, "Lena, I won't let you. I won't let you take her again, even if it kills me." And we see that they're actually holding hands. At the very end.
Yeah.
So before we go to the last issue, let me ask you this: how are you feeling about this kind of almost redemptive arc, in a way, of Lex Luthor trying to make him good, in finding ways for him to be a good guy?
Right. I mean that's a toughie, you know what I mean? Because of course we love Lex as a brain as this amazing villain, this mind over body kind of person. The riches and the intelligence, the science and being able to um, keep his discretions hidden, but with that's also been facets of the character for 80 years. So I mean, to kind of give him this turn is interesting as stories are told, but I do prefer him to be um, more villainous. But it
It's
does make the character more dynamic.
It does, and I think part of my issue is coming from where I feel like anytime we have any interesting villain characters, we slowly try to turn them good, which is kind of what you want. I think it works for some characters, but like, we have Siobhan and Livewire both in this who are kind of on the good side, so it's like just a thought. Let us know, listeners. How are you feeling about Lex Luthor? So now we're back on the ship for the conclusion. It says the Brainiac Hive, deep space. And, they're fighting inside the mind while Superman, Lobo, and Supergirl are battling everything else. And this is, there was referenced earlier how Supergirl has had her battles with Superman. And, Supergirl has had her battles with Brainiac before that Superman hasn't, because of the history. and stuff. So it seems like they're kind of keeping some of that in continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And Brainiac is trying to bring the Queen back online. He says she was perfect, and I have given them that gift my way. Excuse me. And I won't fight your wife and children, Brainiac. And I said he needs all the power for his queen to feed on. The House of Brainiac has won. And all of a sudden, boom, how about we even the odds? And there's the twins, Keenan, Livewire, Mercy, Parasite, Lana, Superboy, Silver Banshee, all joining the fight. And meanwhile, Lena and Lex basically make it to Brainiac's brain.
It's like metaphorical.
Yeah, that's what I was like. That was more than like their mind energy makes it to like his brain because they're connected to him because it is a hive mind.
Yeah.
So they are kind of connected. And like we get this awesome art piece of him. Like it says, he starts screaming. It says Brainiac intelligence at 99%. And then we see all of them start to go down. He loses his hive mind, and Lena and Lex come out. The ship's blowing up. They start saving all the bottles. And as we go through the story, we start seeing Brainiac's, Brainiac intelligence 40%. And he's yelling for his son to help him. And then Brainiac intelligent 35% as he sees Superman and he's like, you took my family, you hurt my friends, you killed a whole civilization. Why? Brainiac's like, I need your power. You were never a liar, Brainiac. He starts talking about his mind and his knowledge wasted. And he starts talking about these emotions. And I feel anger, sadness, loss. They cloud my every thought. How can anyone live like this? And Superman says, that's life. You learn to share with the people that you love.
To connect and not try to bear the whole burden by yourself. Says even with my my intelligence diminished, I am still 1,000 times smarter than you, Kryptonian. Kolu is all I have left from my past. Save it, Superman. I will follow you.
Which he doesn't follow.
Nope, he rescues his queen.
Yeah, he rescues his queen. Basically, a very similar thing to Jor-El sending Kal-El. He sends his queen out in a spaceship to save her as his intelligence disappears. And they ask if he found any traces of Brainiac, and it's no. And he talks about, we got to put Parasite and Livewire back in Strikers, but they deserve a moment. And when they get back, we see there's Crush, which I don't even know her story. I just know she's Lobo's daughter. And there's Power Girl. We found out there's Kolu 2.0, which is like a giant spaceship planet that has all the other cities living in it. And then Superman and Lobo do a nice bro fist bump. Last Sons. And he takes off, and then Lois gives Superman the eyes. And then at the end, Lena busts out like, sorry to bother you, but we need to talk. Superman, you don't, but I do. And he's like, I'm proud of you, Lex Luthor. And then the person, I'm sorry, were you speaking to me? Who is Lex Luthor? It says the next issue, Superman and Zatanna team up as absolute power rages. But first. And then we get something that's an ode to Doomsday. And it says, to be continued this fall.
Yeah. Which wasn't there a Doomsday special where like Doomsday was in hell?
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucked. Doomsday's one of those characters that was not designed to keep coming back, people. But hey, that's House of Brainiac. What did you think?
Very. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. It really kind of syncs up in the way that these stories have really been going over at DC, really embracing the family aspect. I mean, Superman and the super family, working together, growing and expanding, and trying to, team up and utilize everybody to do better, to be better than they have been before. Same thing over on Batman. Batman,
Mm-hmm.
Bruce has tried to been doing things for so long and worried about losing people, but having to get to that point where he needs his family around. He needs to share that, and you know they they are better because of him. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
would be doing what they are still doing, but would have died, you know,
Yeah.
more than likely in the fight, trying because they didn't have Bruce to train them to be out there. That's something that they mentioned. So, kind of having Brainiac mirror that, and it being mirrored with Kolu, being mirrored with the Zarnians, in this story. I thought it was pretty good, and seeing all those different versions of Brainiac being controlled by that primary version of Brainiac. It was a interesting story that incorporated, uh, so many characters.
I agree with everything that you've said. The only thing I would say is I actually wish they would let it breathe a little bit and would have I would have liked a little bit more of just the Zarnian stuff. And then, like I said earlier, about like then bring in Brainiac as like a second arc. So like 6 issues like the Zarnian War or something, and 6 issues of the Brainiac story. And then let like the Queen shows up and is like only active for like the end of one and then the start of the next, and then she's done. And then it's like you feel like you kind of rush to the end. And part of me feels like a lot of times with comics, they get these really good ideas and then they just cram so much into it that it becomes a lot and over convoluted instead of just letting the story breathe. It's like they're afraid to just have characters interact and talk and move story. They just have to have it like then this happens and then this happens and then this happens. And
Right.
then I feel like I'm just getting a lot of like just big action, which I don't mind reading the action and seeing the great artwork, but I do like the character moments of these characters.
Yeah.
Um, and I just kind of wish they would have let it breathe a little bit. This is and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we do this other special coming up sometime soon. This is another one that I think would make a really good animated film and streamline it a little bit more. Um, say, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It'd be
Right.
one I'd like to go back to. I just feel like you could have just taken maybe another issue or at least another issue or two to slow it down a little to see what all's going on. Cause like what's going on with Natasha and Steele or, you know, just kind of a little bit more of what's going on with Brainiac. And it's just a lot that got shoved in there fast. But
Yeah.
it was good. It was good. I'm not gonna deny that it was good.
Right. Well, you got kind of what's going on with these groups of people here. Um, like, unfortunately, I feel like the backup story with Guy for the tie-in for this is kind of lacking in any actual tie or any actual impact on the story at all.
Mhm.
Um, so, uh, unfortunately, I feel like that's like really wasted there. Um, but they talk about the Green Lantern quarantine of Sector 2814. That's the interesting side of the story that's actually going on in the Green Lantern book as it goes. Not so much the tie-in, but then the Power Girl tie-in. You've got Power Girl in Metropolis on the ground. Um, and what's going on there. So I haven't finished that last issue for Power Girl, so to complete the last tie-in for House of Brainiac. I was reading it before we got on, but I only got like 9 pages in before we jumped on.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Well, that concludes. What did you think of House of Brainiac? I think Joshua Williamson's doing great writing Superman. I look forward to what he brings up in the future with this next arc. I know that Gail Simone's taking over in action for a while, so that'll be fun to see. So, from Happy Birthday, James, to House of Brainiac, this is the Krypton Report. Hit us up on all of our socials. Let us know what you're thinking, how you're feeling on Superman and everything. Are you excited for the movie? Should James just wear trunks when we record? I don't know. Let us know.
Trunks.
I say this stuff, people, just to catch James off guard, to make him laugh. If anyone knows me and hangs out with me knows that I'll say things just to get people to laugh and just to see if I can catch them off guard. But no, seriously, let us know what you're thinking. It's a good time to be a Superman fan. Great things in the works. My Adventures with Superman just wrapped on season 2. Check it out if you have not watched all of it. Don't wait. Binge it all. I look forward to rewatching the whole 20 episode run. Both seasons kind of together. It'll be good stuff. Check out our friend Nate McKenzie's podcast for Superman the Animated Podcast, as he is wrapping up. He just wrapped up the first season. Great re-listen podcast. James and I both guested on it on different episodes. So remember.
And he just posted that season 2 is out there now.
Yes.
So
I'm sure you got season 2 quickly. So
yeah, I'm sure he's gonna work that in pretty soon.
I look forward to hearing those thoughts as well. So
yes.
Look up in the sky.
We want to thank you for checking out the Krypton Report podcast, and we ask you to check us out on all of our social media, on Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Hive, Threads, YouTube. We're everywhere. And if you want to be a guest on the podcast, just send us a message and let us know.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough super talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, The Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope